we are group one, and we sort of focused on the current and future impacts of artificial intelligence in the construction industry. So my name is Rebecca Jacobson. I'm an assistant project manager at Consigli. Shreeyah, I'll let you introduce yourself
Yeah,
next.
I'm Shreeyah Shakya. I'm an architect at Payette.
And I'm Dan Moses. I'm an attorney at Hinckley Allen.
So we kind of came along this topic just because we all have sort of different backgrounds within the AEC industry. And after we met a few times, the conversation just kind of flowed on the impacts that we're all seeing, and they were all very different. And it was interesting to hear each other's experiences. And after we communicated a few times, we thought it would be really cool to record it and create a podcast. So that's what we did as our final project. So this is kind of just a summary of what we talked about in that podcast. So Shreeyah, take it away.
Sure. On the architecture side, I kind of, through my research, I kind of started categorizing all the progress in AI to be happening in three fronts. The first one was more image generation, and I think this is like the most popular one. This is what you're seeing in social media, on LinkedIn, and it's kind of these image generating AIs like DALL-E or like Midjourney, where like you can either upload a photo or it's sometimes just text based, and it can give you very detailed, fantastical renderings. Like this example is like someone took a picture of a crumpled piece of paper and told the AI to generate a building in the style of like Frank Gehry or Zaha Hadid, and it like does a pretty impressive job. AI just like from the crowdsourced images online. And some of these are getting pretty sophisticated. Like you can put in like boxes or like very simple massing models into some of these softwares, and even like dictate how much of that form it can start manipulating, and then get very quick generative results. Like I can see how this would be so helpful when we're in early stages of design, and like just to make iterations, think to design like for competitions. And something that's like kind of growing popularity is like these are like free tools that you can just like upload photos of rooms, or even like just like bigger spaces, and start showing design ideas, and you can keep like tweaking them and like refining them. And I can see how this could be so helpful, like taking it in front of clients and kind of designing live with them and getting reactions from them. So this was just more image based, and that's like what like we like and we are attracted to. But then there's like these other more data analytical AI that's like developing. So this one in particular that's up on the screen, it's one of the most powerful ones. It's Autodesk Forma, and the fact that it's like connected to Autodesk, like you can seamlessly get into Revit. But it's a software that helps kind of analyze a lot of data that we need when we start off a project. So the AI can analyze like everything from like wind, noise, like traffic, all these things that affect the site, and it can even start like suggesting what you should be doing at the site. And then it's like it's straight onto Revit. I can see this even growing even further by like including things from the zoning code that you're in, or like just code compliancy. So it's like very much a helpful AI tool based on like available data that it can just process much faster than we can. And the third is like, so the image that we see, it's like it uses AI for automated production. So the image that we see is of a hotel in China. It's like a 500-room hotel that from design to construction was done within 4.5 months with the help of automated production. And that was used during this tool called XCool. And it's already like rolling out in China, where like the AI helps you generate room layouts, kind of the building form, and then takes it from like just basic schemes to like CD level drawings, and then rolls that out into like production. And this is an area where I think that's like the most exciting for me personally, even though it's like not as sexy as the images, is that like with the help of AI, like our production is going to be so much faster. Like a lot of the mundane tasks that we spend a lot of our younger years in design doing, the AI is going to just like do it much faster than us, and probably like even resolve like coordination in a more efficient way. So it kind of integrates within architects, engineers, and even like goes into as far as like producing, you know, like uh, the components of the building itself. Like it's like all automated. And I think the exciting part of this is that, yeah, like it's gonna, I think, ask architects the question how we in the future value ourselves. Like I think currently we kind of value ourselves in an hourly basis. We think of our work as like through timelines of like, this is how many months it's gonna take us to design things. But with the help of like these automated technologies, the computer is gonna do a lot of it faster than us. So I think there's gonna be a shift in our role. And I think it's gonna ask us to actually put our value on the things that we design and the projects that we lead and the innovation that we bring to the table. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rebecca.
All right, thanks, Shreeyah. So specifically for project management, AI is helping us overcome, improve our site safety, tackling labor shortages, preventing schedule delays, and then ensuring cost certainty. So next slide, Shreeyah. I think specifically we're all based in Boston, so it was interesting to look at the impacts here specifically. Boston being a very union-based city, I think we'll be a little bit more behind maybe some other cities, you know, in terms of like robots and self-driving machinery. It will be interesting to see how the unions kind of handle that technology. And I think Boston specifically may be a little bit behind in that sense. But there are a ton of softwares that have been introduced into the market recently that we, at least at Consigli, have been incorporating. Next slide, Shreeyah. Specifically on my project right now, we're using a software called Wint, which is a leak detection software. It basically uses AI to analyze your water trends, and it can basically notify you and shut off your water before any leaks become really damaging or expensive. And this is not only beneficial for the general contractor during construction, but it can be used by ownership post-construction as well. And something interesting is that we're also seeing owners incorporate these as a requirement of their builder's risk insurance plans now, kind of having a water mitigation plan in general. So this software has kind of changed our industry recently. Similarly, on the next slide, we're also using a software called AeroSight, which is a safety solution. It's basically like game film for business. So we have these cameras that are all set up on site, and they take video all day long, your 8-hour shift, and a computer essentially condenses that video footage down into like 2 hours, and then they have a auditor, an actual person, go through that footage and flag any sort of safety violations, like workers getting too close to equipment, not wearing proper PPE on site, or even smoking on site. And then the next day you'll get 4 to 5 little 15-second videos, and they're really used as coaching moments to help make sure that we're preventing any safety incidents down the road. And I think this is a really interesting example because AeroSight originally, when it was issued, it was fully 100% artificial, and it was relying on the computers 100% to pick out any safety violations. And they actually found that it wasn't as effective because the computer wasn't picking up on necessarily the best things. So it's interesting to see how they use the hybrid system. And I think that just goes to show that at least now in 2023, we're not at a point where we can rely fully on artificial intelligence yet. But I think it's an interesting example to note.
Wow.
So Dan, I want to take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. So we've heard sort of so far how AI is impacting the architecture industry and the project management industry. And so I took a look to see, you know, how is it impacting the practice of law, and in particular, the practice of law in construction. what you see on the screen here is just a screenshot of LexisNexis and how LexisNexis is integrating artificial intelligence into its product line. If you're not familiar with it, LexisNexis is one of a few dominant search engines for legal research. So if you think through the progression of legal research, going back, law students and lawyers years ago would have massive law libraries where they'd go and they'd go through legal encyclopedias and legal case law that was in various books and reporters to try to find relevant case law. And then there was a massive leap forward with Westlaw and LexisNexis, which compiled all of those cases and made them available electronically. And what we're seeing is that seems to be the next major step forward is the integration of artificial intelligence into the research process. Research is central to the role of an attorney. It's a critical component of what we do. Finding the appropriate law applicable to the given facts is absolutely critical. And so LexisNexis, Westlaw, they're integrating this technology. It's kind of hard to see on the slide, but in the search box, it says ask anything. And this is the next step in research. And so historically, we would enter in key terms and do what's called terms and connector searches in hopes to try to find cases that were similar to the facts at issue. Well, similar to what you've probably experienced if you messed around with Chat GPT at all, this now allows you to just enter a question and you can get to the information that you're seeking much quicker without having to do these sort of clunky terms and connectors type searches. In fact, I tried this recently and it worked really well. So that was pretty cool to experience. What you can see on the screen here, again, it's fairly small, but let me actually increase my own window here a little bit. So this is, a lot of you are probably familiar with this sort of screen. It's a Chat GPT question and the program's response. One of the issues that I've dealt with recently is the sufficiency of the residential contract and whether or not it was compliant with some of the regulations that that exist in Massachusetts and that residential contractors are required to comply with. Oftentimes, these smaller contracts simply don't comply with the regulations, and contractors can find themselves in trouble if they produce their own contracts or have contracts with clients that don't comply. And so I was curious to see if I entered a simple prompt into Chat GPT to see if it would produce a contract that was compliant with Massachusetts statutes. And so my prompt here was, Chat GPT, draft a construction contract that complies with all applicable law and regulations for a residential construction project in Massachusetts. The work will include the removal of old windows, all necessary carpentry, and the installation of new replacement windows. The first thing that comes up is I'm not a lawyer. And I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect of the response. It is quick to disclaim any responsibility for its product, which as a lawyer, I can appreciate. That's probably the right thing to have there. I will say that I ran this same or a very similar prompt 3 or 4 months ago, and I didn't save it, but from memory, I don't think that prompt was there. So I think that that's a pretty recent addition. So before we go to the next slide, I'm gonna put our instructors on in the hot seat for just a minute and ask, this was my prompt. So I'll ask Bill first. Bill, how successful do you think Chat GPT was in terms of providing a statutorily compliant contract?
I would bet for this project, which doesn't look like the world's most complicated project, I would guess maybe 80% at this point in the evolution of Chat GPT.
What about you, Colin?
I was going to say, I was going to go with the Pareto 80-20 rule, and I say it catches 80%.
80%. And Tony, what do you think?
I'm gonna say it's going even further. I'm gonna go with it's what, like 95%. It's getting really close for something simple like this.
Okay. All right. So Shreeyah, can you go to the next slide? All right. So this is
Oh,
this is a printout of a portion of one of the key statutes. So there's more to the statute than this here, but this highlights some of the mandatory requirements. So I went through and I highlighted in red the aspects that the Chat GPT missed, and in green what it caught and included. So my
It was the
question,
it was total flip.
it's about 50%, even though the one on this,
It is.
the right portion is really one, you know, so it captured about 50% of the requirements there. And
Really?
some of them were, you know, not necessarily mandatory in every contract if they were inapplicable. So those are uncolored, but it gives you a quick visual on, you know, just how well it did. Now, my question was a little bit of a trick, because when I ran this the same question through the system, like I said, 3 months or so ago, it actually did a much better job. And I would say it was probably more like 70%. And I would have expected the opposite results. We all expect that AI is getting more and more sophisticated. And I'm speculating at this point, but my guess is that companies like Westlaw and LexisNexis, who control the information that Chat GPT may have been accessing previously, could have potentially put up safeguards to prohibit it from looking into this thing.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. That's a total guess, but the fact that it produced a less sophisticated contract several months after the initial pass suggests that there's some change.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if I ran this 3 more times, I'd get three different contracts of varying sophistication. I don't know, but at any rate, this was what it produced. So it's a cautionary tale, I would say. It's basically, it says this is going to catch some of the things that you might not have caught if you just opened up Word and tried to draft a contract by yourself, but it doesn't catch all of the mandatory things that are required by the statute. And so a total reliance on it is probably not a good idea either. And that's better illustrated in our next slide. So if you go to the next one, there's a painful real life case study. You know, here's what happens when your lawyer uses Chat GPT. So this is a story that highlighted an attorney out of New York who prepared a legal document using Chat GPT. He did his research with Chat GPT, and Chat GPT fabricated some cases, which he then cited in his legal document, sent, I believe, to the judge and to the opposing counsel. The judge is looking through the cases and, you know, checking them and saying, wait a second, I can't find any of these cases. Well, they're all fabricated. And so he's now in front of the ethics board trying to say, hey, listen, I didn't know. What was surprising to me about this is that, you know, when I first became aware of the story, I immediately assumed that this was going to be like a 24, 25-year-old who was, you know, new. This is a guy who has been practicing law for like 30 years. And was just believed in the sufficiency of the technology without really checking it thoroughly. And you know, it for sure has negatively impacted his career in a major way.
We're approaching our
time. Yeah.
Time constraints, sir. Yeah.
So I'll just close with summarizing kind of our general group takeaways. We all see that there's powerful potential with AI integrated into our respective fields. We also all note that with that potential comes certain risks that we need to be cognizant of. We shouldn't be totally reliant, and we should always make sure that we think critically about the information and product that we're seeing produced by artificial intelligence.